You are about to listen to a Jason Burgos exclusive interview.
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
I'm good. I appreciate taking the time. Very curious to get your answer on some of these questions. Now, the first one I had to ask was, now after your last fight in January, which was aired on the UFC Fight Pass, you mentioned still waiting on that call from the UFC. Now, you haven't lost since 2015. How frustrating was it to get that call, not get that call from the UFC? And were there good opportunities that you passed on, hoping that you would finally get on with the UFC?
Yeah, I was very upset that I haven't got the calls from the UFC. I am thankful, that I got this PFL deal. I'm excited about that. But yeah, I was, everybody's ultimate goal is to make the UFC, and I haven't got that shot yet, and yeah, it's crazy. I know, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Did you ever did you ever pass on some worthwhile opportunities from other, like, did Bellator or One or KSW, ACB, did any of these notable promotion from around the world, did you pass on any opportunities?
Not that I passed on, but, my management team has reached out to some of the other ones to, see what they will offer on the table. They put some things out there, and some of them were like, we're busy right now, let us get back to you. But the PFL was like the best opportunity that I had, so I hopped right on that opportunity.
Now, for most, you will be viewed as a top-level prospect, having been a champion and 15-1 mostly for the CES. But you also are about to turn 35, which is not the norm for top prospects. You got into the sport fairly late for current standards. Tell me a bit about your background and what got you into the sport in your late 20s.
So, I started when I was about 24. Started as just like a hobby, just going into training partner of mine, a friend of mine was already fighting. So I just went to the gym to go check it out, and I happened to enjoy it, and I happened to get really good, really fast. So, I just stuck with it. It was a hobby at first, doing amateur fights, and I did good as an amateur, and then I decided to go pro and see how it turned out, and things kept getting, it turned into from a hobby to a lifestyle.
When you were growing up as a kid, did any of those traditional martial arts or maybe even wrestling in school, were you into any of those things or tried any of those things, or not at all?
No, not at all. I was obviously into it, watching movies like Karate Kid and things like that, but never did any traditional martial arts. Never had a wrestling background. I mostly just played basketball and football.
Now, do you feel you have more of an urgency in your career at this time, and because for the window for prime years as an athlete can close pretty quickly, do you need to make that money fairly quickly, be it with the UFC or now with the PFL? Do you feel that urgency because, you're 35, or do you feel like because you haven't necessarily been through a ton of wars and all these other fights, you're more, your body and stuff is more like 29 than it is 35.
Yeah, man, exactly. I haven't had any wear and tear on my body. I haven't been in any crazy wars. I get in there, I get the job done, I get out. I train smart. I might be 35, but man, I tell you, I feel like I'm in my prime. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in, the best health that I've ever been, that I've had. I feel great. I feel like a 21-year-old. I wish I felt like this at 21. I'm smarter. I eat clean. I train hard, but I train smart. So I take care of my body. So I feel like I'm in my prime, and I'm ready to go.
Do you have, are you married? Do you have kids? Do you have families to provide for that this, opportunity at possibly making $1 million is going to be huge for your life for?
Yes, I have a girlfriend, and I have a 7-year-old son. So, I do this for him. You know what I mean? When I got into sport, my pro debut, he was born the very next day.
Wow.
So after that, I realized, you know what I mean? Like, at first I was doing it for me, but now that I have him, and he's such an inspiration, he's my motivation, I do this for him, you know, and he's a fan of the sport. He trains, he loves it, and, you know, I do this to build a legacy for him.
Now, when did your management first hear from the PFL, and when an offer was made, you know, were you gung-ho about it, or was there a little hesitancy because it wasn't the UFC and PFL, you know, it's only in year 2?
I was, when my management team got the offer, you know, they approached me with it, and at first I was like a little hesitant because I have been looking forward to making it into the UFC, but let me be honest with you guys. I have a training partner who's managed by another manager who's very close with the matchmaker at the UFC, and he actually reached out to him and asked him, "Hey, what's the deal with this guy Nate Andrews? Why haven't you guys signed him yet?"
Right.
And their only response was, "Oh, yeah, he's a great fighter. He has a lot of all finishes. He's great, but it's something about him I just don't like."
Wow.
And when I heard that, I pretty much was like, "Yo, honestly, they just, you know what I mean? They just don't want to give me that chance. They don't want to give me that shot for some reason. It has nothing to do with my fight skills. It has nothing to do with the way I fight, the way I perform, the way I put on the shows. Clearly, there's just something about me, whether it's the you know, the way I look, the way I talk. I don't know what it is, but something about it. They, you know, the matchmaker said something about him I just don't like, you know, and you know, I didn't hear that directly from him. It's a you know, a he say she say, but you know, someone that's close to him said, you know, that's what he said. So I took that, you know what I mean? I said, obviously, you know, what I'm doing is not enough for them. They don't like it. So I got to go to the next best opportunity, which was the PFL. And I'm very excited. I'm very thankful for it.
And I mean, what is your opinion? How's your opinion framed on the UFC? Because not just you, every person who gets into this sport, the goal is to get to the UFC, man or woman. That's always the top thing. I mean, unless maybe you're from Asia, it's one or something like it's a bigger regional thing. But like, does something like that kind of sour you? Like, does it make you feel like there's politics to it? Because clearly you've done everything you need to do. You're a champion, 15-1. Like, the fact that one person can affect a decision and someone can overrule it, does it sour you on the UFC a little bit?
You want to know what, man? I look at it like this. It is what it is, and everything is in God's hands and God's plan. So for some reason, you know what I mean? They didn't want me, and this that door closed, and God opened up another door for me. And you know what I mean? I have an opportunity to make more money in 4 or 5 fights in PFL than I would in the beginning of a UFC contract. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at it as that one door closes, another door opens, and I just got to hop on this opportunity and take advantage of it. Does it sour me a little bit? Yeah, because that was my day one goal since I started. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? There's politics and everything. You know what I mean? There's people that apply for a firefighter job and have everything, all the credentials that they need to get that job, and they don't get it. And then somebody that doesn't have the credentials might just know somebody, and they get the job. You know what I mean? I guess it is what it is in everyday life scenarios, in every job, in every career. You know what I mean? It's who knows who to get in. It's not based on all the time what your credentials are and how fit you are for the job. So I look at it like that. You know what I mean? There's you know, I'm 15-1 with 15 finishes, and I'm not in. And there's guys, you know what I mean, that are you know, for instance, I'm very happy and very proud for one of my training partners, Randy Costa, who's making his UFC debut this weekend, and I'm excited for him, and I wish him nothing but the best. But like, you know, look at his situation. Like, he's only 4-0, and he's getting an opportunity. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, it does have a lot to do with who you know, and if they like you, if you fit the image that they're looking for, and if you don't fit the image that they're looking for, and clearly they must look at it. It's something about me, they said that they don't like. And another thing, they probably look at my age like, hey, he's 35,
Right.
but not looking at the situation that, hey, he's 35, but has all finishes and hasn't taken any damage and continuously looks better and better and better every single time he goes out there and performs. So, like I said, when one door closes, God opens another one, and I'm going to take advantage of that door that he opened up.
Now, and I'm glad you brought up the money thing too, because I interviewed a lot of guys last year, and I interviewed already David Michaud for this year. He's a new guy for PFL, and the constant thing for a lot of the guys last year was the money and how they were treated by the promotion. I mean, the league, excuse me, and that guy like Josh Copeland, who actually eventually got to the finals. How just through the season he had made the most money he had ever made in his career, and he was a former UFC guy. How big of a difference is pay wise are you going to be in terms of going from CES to this? Is it like you're going to be making double per fight? Is it something like that? Is even just the season before you can get to the finals and possibly making $100,000, $200,000, $1,000,000? Is it already life changing just getting those first few fights in the season?
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be. I wouldn't say life changing for the first couple fights, but after that. Yeah, but at the same time, it is going to be a lot more than what I was making for CES. Mm-hmm. The opportunities of being on, ESPN2, ESPN Plus, and being able to get, certain sponsors to make a little more money. It's definitely going to be a pay raise from what I was already making for CES, and then the potential of, getting far in this tournament and even winning this tournament, which I plan on, is definitely going to be life-changing.
Now, I'm glad you brought up the ESPN thing because, you fought like your last fight was on Fight Pass, and Fight Pass, sure, has a good reach, but it's still not the reach of an ESPN Plus or an ESPN2. Did that news make you, more excited to join the promotion when they were offered, or had you already signed before that news came out and it was like, oh shit, I can get to be on ESPN Plus, ESPN2 now. This is amazing. I'm so glad I signed with them.
I signed before they had announced that deal. Mm-hmm. So I thought I was going to be fighting on NBC Sports. Mm-hmm. So that's what when I first started telling people, I was telling them, I'll be on NBC Sports, and then I saw the deal that they did with ESPN, and then I was like, well, scratch that. It's going to be ESPN Plus or ESPN2. Mm-hmm. So it was exciting.
Now, how much of season one did you watch, and were you intrigued by the league when it came out, or were you like a lot of people, that be it fans or even fighters, that were like, you know what, I'm going to see a whole season play out. I want to see how the process works. I want to see those checks handed out and then cashed at the finals. Did it take that to be a believer, or were you kind of a fan of the league even last year?
I was already a fan. I'm an MMA fan, so I watch, from CES to LFA to World Series of Fighting to PFL to Bellator to UFC. I watch them all. I'm a fan, and I'm still a student of the game, so I watch and learn. I study fighters. I had a few friends that were in the tournament last year, John Doomsday Howard, mm-hmm. and Andre Harris, that were in the tournament last year. So I didn't get to watch all the fights, but I tried to watch as many as I could to especially catch my buddy's fight. And I was interested. I was like, wow, this is a good platform for fighters. And it was always like a thing like, all right, if I don't get this, this opportunity and this comes, like, this is a pretty cool company to fight for and a pretty big opportunity, So I was interested. Then, like I said, obviously the goal was always UFC, but I'm very thankful and very happy with my opportunity that I have with the PFL.
Now you're getting a great opportunity in terms of opponent and a tough test at PFL 2 in your first fight. You're going to be facing Chris Wade. What are your thoughts on Chris Wade? I mean, he's one of the more well-known fighters from last year. There was in his point of view, some controversy that held him up from possibly getting to the finals. So he made it fairly close to the end. Another UFC veteran. What are your thoughts on going into facing Chris Wade? Probably most likely the stiffest test of your career to date. How are you feeling about the matchup and all those kinds of things?
I'm very excited about the matchup. You know, Chris Wade is a very tough dude. He's a veteran. He's fought in the UFC. He fought when it was World Series of Fight, and he was in the tournament last year. He's a tough dude. He's technical at times, but he does get a little careless and wild at points in the fight. And I feel like those are the things that I got to take advantage of. I feel like the first round is going to be a very tough first round. I feel like he's going to come out real aggressive like he always does. But I feel like at that point, I got to stand my ground, use my range like I always do, and pick these guys out from the outside, and then take advantage when they make their mistakes and capitalize on it and get another finish.
He made a further his name for the PFL a couple times during the season, just coming out in the first few seconds with a crazy kick or something crazy. Are you prepared for that possibility? How does one handle that? Do you just kind of walk slowly and wait to see if he's going to do anything wild?
Yeah, you got to, he's done it a few times, so you got to be prepared for everything. I got to be prepared if he's going to come out right off the gate, running right at me, going for broke, or if he takes a different approach and says, all right, let me come out and be a little more technical before I do anything crazy. But at any point, he's very explosive. He is an athlete and a very good athlete. So at any point, he can be very explosive. So I just got to be, on my game, and be focused and stick to my game plan and do what I need to do to get my hand raised.
Is there any thought to say, you know what, screw that, Chris Wade, I'm going to do the crazy kick and I'm going to run at you with some crazy stuff, or that's just not your style?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do anything reckless or crazy, you know what I mean? That's how guys get caught. That's how you make mistakes. Right. I'm going to come out there, I'm going to be as technical as I possibly can be, and wait for my opportunity to strike or to grapple or to wrestle and take advantage of mistakes like I do in all my fights.
Now, the PFL lightweight division is pretty good. I mean, we've got the champion, Natan Schultz. You got Ronnie Torres. You got Wade, like we mentioned, and several other fighters like yourself that have been very good stars in a region and are finally getting that big opportunity on a national stage. Are there any fights that are you're hoping to eventually get after the Chris Wade that you may be looking for? Anybody intriguing that you would really like to test yourself against at some point before maybe the playoffs?
Not really. Like, I look through the list, and it's not like I don't really go. I've never been that guy that looks out and calls out guys or says, this is what, I want this guy, da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? Like, just like all my CES fights, like, you know what I mean? The promotion hits me up. Hey, we have this guy or we have this guy and this guy. All right, well, whatever one says yes first, let's do it. Like, you know what I mean? So it's the same thing here. Like, you know what I mean? They called and was like, hey, your first one's Chris Wade. I said, all right, awesome, cool, thanks. Boom. And it is what it is. So, after I get this win and they call and say, hey, next is this guy. All right, cool, thanks. Boom, you know what I mean? Back to the drawing board, right back to training and, game planning and working on my skills and getting better and faster and stronger like always.
Now, what about the flip side? Let's say somebody out there going to the season says, man, I want Nate Andrews. What's your opinion? Do you like that kind of stuff? Does it bother you, or do you care less?
I care less because, you know what I mean? Hey, pick your poison. Mm-hmm. If you want Nate Andrews, you're probably going to get him. And when you get him, you're going to think, damn, why did I call this out? Why did I ask for something? You know what I mean? Like they always say, be careful for what you ask for.